Navigation. So navigation options will vary according to the access level you have to the system. A comprehensive access level system is available that's controlled by the certified users, and you'll probably not have access to much of this. But it does provide access to functionality such as adding new users, configuring the assessment process itself, restricting lists of senior secondary subjects that are presented to students, configuring how the Moresby Careers product works in your centre if you have that product. And access to all of that would be from a settings cog, which would appear top right near your name. If you don't have that, you don't have access. So what do you have access to? Well, the vast bulk of it is going to be from the Students tab. And particularly if you're using this for subject selection, that's where you'll spend your time. I think we know that there are two views of the individual. In this view, we have the name, we have whether or not the assessment has been finished or not, completed or not. If it's greyed out, it hasn't been completed. Then when did they sign up? When did they last log in? The year group they're in, and the level of academic attainment the system has for them. Now, initially that's system generated, and students will often go into that in the Careers tab and edit their academic expectations, which is normally fine, but that would need to be monitored a little bit to make sure it's sensible. You then have here a list of how many careers they favorited, i.e. really who's been using the system and there's evidence of them using it, and then whether they're English as an additional language or not. And all of these tabs are sortable. So that's one view. A second view is from the Assessment tab. Same students. Here's an example of a student who's just done the interest questionnaire, and they have the values, perhaps priorities, and study interest questionnaire queued if they choose to do it. And as you scroll across, you can see how well the student performed in a particular assessment. When it's red, clearly the scores are low. On the right, we have any alerts. If English is an additional language and they've completed the vocabulary test, then the adjustment level is shown. This is huge. It's the most at +9 verbal and +4 mechanical. If you're getting figures like that, then to be honest, the verbal reasoning of mechanical reasoning probably aren't at all accurate. But when you get figures like +3 and +1, the system's got a good chance of working out how much impact lack of vocabulary has had on that student and adapting it. So I tend to believe the results with the smaller levels of adjustment, but I'm quite cynical with the larger levels of adjustment, because if somebody's that bad with the English language, you have to adjust their scores +9. When the population average is 10, it's saying something about how poorly they've done in the verbal components of the assessments. And at that level, unless they've taken a lot of time over the multiple choice interest questionnaire and personality questionnaire, you'd have to wonder if they know what they're reading. Over here is the interview module. Now, if you're going to use this, you'll be told about it, but essentially, if it's greyed, the student hasn't been there and completed anything. If it's orange, the student has entered notes in that, so they've responded to the interview questions. And if it's green, the advisor has been in, allocated the interview to them, and shared the notes. So there's more to be said on this, but essentially there's an interview template that's computer generated. The student's answers to questions will be embedded in that computer generated report to provide a fairly tailored summary view of them, and the careers advisor would typically add notes either at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end of that, and save it as a summary of the interview for the student. And on the right here, you can download either the advisor or the student report for the individual. I'm going to ignore Gatsby benchmarks and essential skills. I'll simply say Gatsby benchmarks are UK government requirements for schools to show evidence that they've provided careers education to students across a range of criteria, and they need to track how students have performed in these areas and how much time has been put into them, so they can't simply tick a box and say, yes, we've done careers education. And the second component is a transferable skills model, worldwide but based in the UK, which Moresby links into. And if you choose, you can do a whole series of classroom activities that might look at staying positive, being creative, aiming high, teamwork, speaking, listening, etc. And these capacities exist at different levels, and as you get older, as you get trained, as you reflect, you can move up the levels and your competence improves. And this is a whole system to track that. But for now, I'm going to go back to the assessment and talk about the filters and actions and the key in the next video.